Before circumnavigating the world, Europeans had already accomplished great explorations. Bartolomeo Diaz reached the southern point of Africa and he called it Cape of Storms. Vasco da Gama passed through it to reach India and called it Cape of Good Hope. Christopher Columbus discovered America, and Vasco Núñez de Balboa in 1513 found a passage through the American continent that brought to an enormous water area, the same that Magellan passed some years later during his historical voyage. Ferdinand Magellan exiled voluntarily from his country, Portugal, and went to Seville to show his project to the Casa de Contratación, a place where everything necessary for negotiation with India was preserved. There, his project was rejected, so he went directly to the King Charles I, who accepted to finance it. Magellan and his fleet left San Lucas Harbour on September the 20th, 1519. 5 ships sailed that day: the Trinidad, the flagship, the Santiago, the San Antonio, the Concepcion, and the Victoria. On board of the flagship there was an exceptional passenger, Antonio Lombardo, called Pigafetta, an Italian author who wrote the tale chronicles of the Magellan's long shipment. Thanks to him, we know that when in South America, Magellan named the region Patagonia because of the enormous footsteps the indigenous living there left walking. At the end of the expedition, only the Victoria went back. The other ships had all serious problems. The Santiago shipwrecked, the San Antonio got lost in the Strait of Magellan, the Concepcion was burned because of the crew was divided between the Trinidad and the Victoria, and the Trinidad was damaged while on its way back to Spain. When the shipment arrived to Marianas Archipelago, Philippines, the fleet was composed by 3 ships, and Magellan had a pacific approach with the indigenous, who spontaneously converted to Christianity. Magellan, though, wanted to colonize Mactan's Island too, but the indigenous people rebelled to Spanish domination. A captain by Lapu-Lapu started the fight against the Europeans. While fighting, Magellan died and the crew retired. Two men took the fleet's command, Espinosa and Carvalho. They decided to burn the Concepcion and to divide this crew between the Trinidad and the Victoria. They finally reached the Spice Islands, where they charged a lot of goods. When on their way back to Spain, the Trinidad was damaged, so only the Victoria could continue sailing. It arrived in San Lucar with only 18 people on board on September the 6th, 1522. Pigafetta was one of the survivors, and he wrote a summary of all the journey, which he read to the Pope and to every European king, so Magellan's greatness could have been recognized. The shipment caused great losses to the Spanish crown, and the king had to sell all the goods coming from Spice Islands. Even if it's important to underline that the Philippines became a great Spanish colony for more than 3 centuries. Despite how historically significant Magellan's venture had been, no one did ever try to repeat this route again until 1895, when the captain of vessel Joshua Slocum started his solo circumnavigation of the world. He left on April the 24th, 1895, and he went back on June the 27th, 1898, after 3 years, 2 months, 2 days, and 46,000 miles. He wanted to pass through the Great Sea and the Red Sea, but there were lots of pirates in that period, so after arriving in Spain, he headed towards South America's coasts, crossed the Strait of Magellan, arrived in Oceania, and then retraced Africa, passing by Cape of Good Hope. During his journey, he wrote a logbook that allowed him to publish a book in the 1900s, Sailing Alone Around the World, which inspired many sailors who came after him. Reading it, one can only imagine how educational Slocum's journey had been. He related to new cultures, learned how to repair his boat, how to manage dangerous situations, and mostly, he learned to stay alone for long periods. Meanwhile, his relation with the Spray, that was the name of his boat, became more and more intense. The sloop was a kind of boat used by American and English people during wars to cover short routes. As I already said, he was a source of inspiration for those who wanted to go all around the world, but to achieve that aim, there are some rules to be respected. So, the route has to be of 21,600 miles minimum, it has to cross the equator and all the meridians, and it has to leave and return in the same harbor. According to these rules, Sir Robin Knox Johnston gave birth to the first regatta around the world in 1968, the Sunday Times Globe. This race had to be taken without steps, without any kind of external assistance, and it was necessary to leave from a United Kingdom's harbour between June the 1st and October the 31st, so they could stay in the Southern Ocean during summer. 9 people took part to the competition, but only 1 returned. 4 of them became the main characters of that experience. Robbie Knox-Johnston, the winner, Nigel Tatley, who was close to reach the award for the best time with his trimaran but shipwrecked near the finish line, Donald Crowhurst, who made suicide during the race, and last but not least, Bernard Montessier, a pillar of sailing who retired from the competition to continue sailing because he was looking for his venture spirituality, so he sailed for another year and a half without stopping on board of his boat Joshua, called after Joshua Slocum. The Golden Globe race is going to celebrate its 50th anniversary on 2018, and to honor this regatta, participants will have to reproduce the 1968 edition conditions, so they will use only the rudimentary devices their predecessors used. That is an occasion to allow sailors to test their personal limits and not only the boat's performances. Another important around-the-world regatta is the Velux Oceans Race, better known as Around Alone, its second name, and originally called the Bog Challenge. This regatta has to be sailed alone too, but it previews some steps. In Italy, it is known for its 1998 edition that saw an important Italian sailor as protagonist of the competition, Giovanni Soldini. He was sailing in the Southern Sea to reach Cape Horn when a friend and colleague's ship capsized. He saved her and won the race. I had the opportunity of interviewing him. We talked about his choice of sailing alone and the relation man has with nature, a relation that, as he says, you don't feel when you're here in the industrialized world, but that in the middle of the ocean makes you feel completely in contact with nature and makes you rediscover the real sense of humanity, as the man powerless in front of nature's strength. We also talked about the fact that sailing as a sport is so less practiced in Italy, differently from what happens in countries like Spain, England and France. In that last one, people is so interested in sailing that they made an award called Trophée Jules Verne, inspired to the author's book Around the World in 80 Days. The aim is to make the world tour in 80 days or less, which is possible if sailing at a medium speed of 13 knots. Since the start of the challenge, 24 boats tried to make new records. The first one has been Bruno Piron, who finished the tour in 79 days, 6 hours and 15 minutes. The last one has been Francis Royon, who finished the race in just 40 days.